All right, my friends, welcome to episode 317 of Prof and Dev Play Games, the episode where I find my pop filter, and you can probably tell. I am Larry at Prof Plays Games on Twitter. Over there is Anthony the Dev at Summer Speak, and this is Final Fantasy XIV week, and Anthony's going to talk to us about Endwalker because it just launched and seems to be awesome and having some connection issues. And I want to hear all about it because I don't know anything about it. So this is going to be the Anthony podcast.
I guess so. Where do you want to start?
Okay, so what time did it launch?
1 a.m. PST Friday, December 3rd.
Were you awake?
Yes.
Then? How long did you play that?
Did I get in that then? No.
Okay.
I was staying up mostly. I was like, if I get in, that's cool. I might get to like 1 or 2 quests done, but I'm going to go to sleep. But it was mostly I was hanging out in a streamer's chat, watching them, and just kind of, I don't know, being part of the experience of it launching.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, it launched and you get slammed right into a multi-thousand person queue that also has some other issues. The queue is the thing. Like, I knew the congestion was going to be a thing. Like, Square Enix had put out statements like a week in advance going like, hey everybody, because semiconductor shortage sucks right now, we can't make new servers. We intended to have new servers for this launch.
Oh man.
It's not gonna happen. Like, we just physically cannot get the hardware. So, be prepared for congestion and large queues. But there appears to be another error that when the queue for a data center, like a data center houses a bunch of servers that like less than a dozen on each data center, but like 10 worlds. If the total queue is greater than 17,000, it will cause an error. And everyone will get kicked from the queue.
No, but what about people in the world? Do they stay in?
They stay in. The worlds have been stable, completely stable, at least for me.
Okay.
Like, once you get into the game, smooth as butter. No issues whatsoever.
Okay.
But it's actually just the queuing and like waiting for a spot in a world.
Right.
And that part where it's an issue has issues, and that's what they were talking about. They're just like, we wish we could have expanded our capacity, but we can't. And Friday, later in the day, Saturday it said that Friday was the largest concurrent day ever for the game.
Oh my god, it's just growing.
Like they've put out a statement, I think today, going like, we are at hardware capacity. Like we literally can't put in more opportunities for people to get on. Yeah, in which they've shut down, like, going into this and that week ago thing saying, hey, people can't create new characters. Like, you get the game, if you don't have a character, you can't create characters right now. Like, we don't have capacity to have new players get into the game.
That is kind of nice for, I understand why, because of the limitations, but that does kind of prioritize people who've been playing the game.
Yeah, they've done that, and for better or worse, they also prioritize people that are paying for the game.
True, too.
If you are a subscriber, not just a free trial player, you get priority in the queue.
And that's temporary, I assume, right?
That was completely temporary. They're just like, we want the people who are paying for this, we want to make sure that they have the best experience, even if it's not the greatest right now.
Right.
But, so that night, like, I stayed up, I think, till like 2:30, and I was mostly just chatting in a big chat with streamers and just everyone just being in queues and mostly just laughing. Everyone I've been around and stuff has just been kind of like laughing it off, or just being like, yep, this is we expected and this is what we're going to get, and that's fine. Like, this is also like, no one I can tell from the people I follow and hang around with are bent out of shape about it. Like, I'm not. I was like, yep, I expect this. But Friday, I went to bed at 2:30. I woke up at 8. I did work on Friday. But at 8 that morning, I was like, fine, I'll boot up the game and I'll leave it logged in. So at lunchtime I can play and whenever. There was only like a 20-person queue at 8 a.m. Like I got right in. Like no, because everyone had gone to bed.
Yeah, of course, right. No one stayed logged in when they went to bed.
Yeah, so that was easy, and I was able to play a little bit over lunch, but then I got disconnected at one point because I did background it and didn't think about it for a while, and I was doing work, and I was like, damn it. And then I struggled Friday night, I think from about 7 o'clock. It took me about till 10 o'clock PM PST to get back in the game.
3 hours queuing.
Queuing and getting kicked from the queue and re-queuing, and yeah. And then I played a lot Friday night once I got in. And similar over the weekend, some when I've had time. It took a while to queue. Like, oh God, last night we had friends actually over, like the first time in forever to actually like have dinner. And I just warned, I started queuing at 2 in the afternoon, gone in at like 4:30, and I was like, cool. And then our friends got here, and I was like, I have a timer set on my phone that goes off every 25 minutes. I just need to go up to my computer and I need to press a button. That's it.
I'm here. I'm present. I promise.
I promise. I just have to do this because if it did disconnected from this thing, I'm not getting back into play tonight. And that's true. Like, it got worse last night. Everyone's off for the weekend.
Right.
North American data center is just super congested. That's like everyone, East Coast, West Coast, Central, everyone is just trying to play the game. And that's when I think things were worse, was basically yesterday afternoon to evening. Today was a little simpler to get in. I logged in about 9 this morning, had about 1,000-person queue, but made it without issue. So I think that, like, as a big story is like, yeah, it's popular and it's causing kind of hell to get into the game. But once you're in the game, no issues. Like,
that's cool.
Stable. I've not been disconnected while playing the game. I haven't come across any crashes. I mean, I've had it running all day since 9 a.m. and I checked my memory. There's like no memory leaks I can tell. Like, I'm still very low on memory usage for my computer. So I'm not worried. And I'm logged in right now while I'm talking to all of you.
Every 25 minutes you'll hear a little tap.
No. NVIDIA Broadcast will mask all of that.
Perfect.
But yeah, no, I'm just gonna move my character.
So what's the story experience like when you load up? Is it like a immediate continuation of the end of the previous expansion?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Direct continuation. Very little time to get everything back up to speed. I mean, they just use a couple lines being like, yep, this is what happened, but they expect you've played it, you know what's going on, we know what we're doing. And I would say it, like, from that standpoint, like playing it, every expansion has just gotten better, and their tools to tell story and do their storytelling, be that how much voice acting they're putting in, dialogue, in-game cinematics, and animations in general. And like every other expansion, it's just gotten better. Like, immediately you just notice, like, wow, your in-game animations are just better for these cutscenes. Flat out.
That's cool.
Like, just lots of little detail in the animations now. I was noticing a cutscene where someone was pouring wine. One, they actually have pouring liquids that look really good being poured. That's sounds dumb, but it's actually a really hard thing to do in real-time computer graphics, like pouring of liquids and making it look, but it looks like wine pouring into a glass.
Wow, that's cool.
And it looks, but like the character does the nice little like twist the wine bottle as they're pulling it back. Like when a person pours wine at like a restaurant and they have like a smooth fluid motion on how they like finish the pour and pull the bottle back to them.
Right.
They got it. They nailed that animation. I was like, that's a small touch, but the game is full of all these small touches in so many places now.
Well, if they're nailing the small stuff, then the big stuff must be amazing.
It is, and I would love to talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody because there just have been already. I'm level 84, so I'm 90's the cap. I don't know how far through the story I'm. I'm probably only a third of the way through the story.
How many hours of game time have you had?
10, 15 maybe.
Nice.
I don't know. I think it's going to be about a 40-hour experience total. 50.
That's awesome.
But I mean, that the whole thing, if you take the whole story as a whole, that's like a 300-hour story.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't want to crazy spoil it for anybody, but it continues where they left off in the previous game. You're visiting new places of the world, and honestly, just revelation after revelation. Like, I don't know, they've done so well in that time span of like slowly building their world and their characters and stories. Like, they have set the dominoes, and they are starting to they've already knocked some down, but they're continuing to like knock them down and watch the dominoes just fall.
That's what I was kind of wondering. Is it just feel like payoff after payoff, or do you also notice new things being built at the same time?
New things being built at the same time. Like,
okay, cool.
Like, there's a lot of payoff, and there's some new things, and then some twists that you learn that recontextualize what you thought you knew of the entire story, which is always crazy. When those twists happen, you're like, oh my god, maybe what I thought was true isn't true anymore. Need to reevaluate certain choices in the game and what I as a character am doing. So that's been great. I mean, playing it, I've already been moved to tears once. Unexpected, like, new character they built up, and it was just, I think it's they take their time, even with the new characters, to lay those foundations so that you can get emotionally invested in them. And I will say, this is not a spoiler. It wasn't like someone died. It was just like, in their animation, like, there's a large buildup. You're going slow burn of emotion through and it just finally all comes out, and everything, there's a bunch of stuff that goes down, and it's very just emotional as a player. So it's exactly what I want. Like, of that, I've laughed plenty of times. I've cheered. Like, they are nailing their storytelling. It is still Final Fantasy, and you'll go from complete seriousness, pretty dark sometimes, to complete and total levity 10 minutes later, and it fits. So,
dang, it sounds like such a cool story to experience.
It is, and I'm glad I'm experiencing it now with like this whole community. It's just kind of fun.
I guess I should know this. I know Final Fantasy XIV has had, like, I think, dungeons that connect to like different Final Fantasy stories, like 7 or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if, well, I wouldn't say there's one that, yes, they connect to other Final Fantasies. I don't think there's been one that's like, oh, this is the Final Fantasy VII dungeon, but there are bosses that are bosses from like 7. Like 7, the first boss you fight, the like spidery tank scorpion thing.
Oh yeah.
That's a boss in a dungeon in the game.
So I guess that what I want to ask about that is, in terms of the overarching story, I know there are side quests and stuff too. Are there any storylines that like give more background to previous Final Fantasy games, or is this like really self-contained and it doesn't really touch on any other Final Fantasy stories?
It touches on other Final Fantasy stories. It does not. It's not adding to those stories. It's pulling from every Final Fantasy game into its story. The 14 is in some ways a big celebration of the franchise. So there's a huge chunk of Final Fantasy XII that's woven throughout of like certain races, and then they actually have pulled some of the like nations of Final Fantasy XII into the narrative of 14. They're not the same as 12. It's just by name and look and design, but they're like, it's not the same, but we want to reference those things. The Far Eastern, like the Japanese city Doma, is, I think, Final Fantasy III. Doma was a city in it. It is a celebration. They just pull from all the Final Fantasies, really. So it's more of a thing, if you've played them or know of other games, you will see references here and there. You'll see monsters that you're like, oh, I know what that is. I've seen that before. But no, just because you've seen it before doesn't mean it has any like narrative meaning to that original game.
That's kind of like Legend of Zelda, right? Where like things come in again, but they're not necessarily related.
Yeah. And Final Fantasy has done that. So Moogles exist in Final Fantasy, Chocobos exist in Final Fantasy, but they're not the same between games. And that's kind of how this is, but it just pulls more references from everywhere. There was a Twitter account, the guy who made Final Fantasy, I should know, is Sakaguchi, sorry. He has, during COVID, played Final Fantasy XIV, and he tweeted his journey. But it was funny with him because like someone translated his tweets, and it was just like he is like, this is a homecoming for him. Of like,
right, that's what
he's seeing all his stuff being pulled in and loving it. He's like, because he's the one, he's like, hasn't worked on this stuff in a decade or more, and he's just like gushing about how much he appreciates all the little details they've put into 14, and makes him feel like they've done their homework. They know what this franchise is, and like the deep cuts that they find. Like some monsters, he's like, they put monsters in that are just from sketches that I had made that had never been brought in, never put into a game. Like they were just archived sketches that Square had. So
it sounds like the ultimate Final Fantasy game. Like,
I think it is. I mean, if they can land this ending, I will hands down say it is the best Final Fantasy story.
Even better than isn't 12 your favorite?
12's my favorite mechanically and generally just playing it, but it's not story wise. Story, okay. It's pretty executed pretty poorly.
Okay.
And that's for a variety of reasons, but it has cool characters and has cool mechanics that I just love playing that game. But before this, I would probably say that like my favorite story was probably 9, most likely, or 7 or 9. 9 was pretty cool, and like I felt like it had a good ending the whole thing through. But yeah, if they can bring this in for the landing, hands down this. And even if they don't, like through the end of the last expansion was incredible. So, but they haven't dropped the ball yet. I do think I've gotten to a point where someone would like, there might be a part of the player base that's like, what the fuck are you doing?
And that hasn't happened, or you say
no? I think some of the player base. I'm curious if they'll care. They introduce mostly a new race of peoples of things, and I'm like, I find it incredibly cute and endearing, but I don't know, other people might not.
Yeah, right.
But I'm like, I saw it, and they did the whole intro of this whole thing. I just got there today, where I saw this, and I'm like, game of the year, done. Like,
locked up.
Yep, put a bow on it. This is amazing. This is so stupid, but so amazing. Like, cool. We're done here. But I'm amazed. I'm amazed that they've come this far with the game. I'm amazed at how popular it is now. Like, everyone wants to be playing this game.
It's such a weird, like, Venn diagram of different things, like pandemic, obviously. People thirsting for a new MMO, of course. WoW, sucking. And then Blizzard,
sucking.
Sucking. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so many things. And then, like, people, thirsting for a good story, too. Like, everything's just, like, magnetically pulling. I went on a hike with someone today, and they're like, "Oh, are you playing Final Fantasy XIV?" It's like, no, what the fuck? No, what? Why? Why are you asking me that? Like, that's I don't know. I think it was just because like I play video games. Here's a video game that this person's thinking about. So it's like, wow, it's part of the zeitgeist, man.
It really is now, which is great. I'm glad that people are celebrating it in that way. Especially when you can think that 1.0 was trashed in this game. Like, 2010, when 1.0 came out, people playing were like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, you have already made an MMO, Square. That was Final Fantasy XI, and it was competent. Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, people were like, this is not competent. This is a dumpster fire.
Well, they were like brave enough to say, or whatever, humble enough to be like, yeah, we fucked it up. We're going to burn it to the ground. Yeah. Put that into the story and then build from the ashes. On top of the ashes, I should say.
Yeah. They did. And to be at this point where people are like, holy hell, wanting to play this, like, I've had multiple coworkers that are like, kind of want to play Final Fantasy XIV. What do I do?
Yeah, about that, the free trial, it's up till level 60. Like, you don't have to pay like this whatever $15 a month thing.
Nope.
To get. Really? Huh.
I know. I could read the quoted meme.
That's what you put on the
Have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV? Yeah. It's a meme where that just gets thrown around. But yes, it's the free trial allows you to play, no restrictions on playtime or anything. It's through the base game and Heavensward, which is the first expansion.
Right.
No restrictions on anything. There's some trading restrictions with players, but whatever. It's minimal amounts of restrictions on things that doesn't really matter for most people. If you just want to play the game and experience the story, there you go. And Heavensward is a incredible expansion. That's where their narrative really took off. Like, base game is fine. It's a little bit of a slog. It's a slow burn there. And now when you're going through it, you're like, wow, this is taking a while. But now where I am later in the game, I'm like, no, that needed to take a while because, again, you set the foundations that you're paying off all of this stuff with. And if I didn't have that initial experience, setting the stage with the characters and the world and loading all the Chekhov's guns, you wouldn't get the incredible moments you get now. So it's a trade-off, I would say, for their part. But they're doing it. They're doing it so well. Yeah, I kind of can't believe that I'm even playing it and it's here, and that they're going to finish. What does finishing a story in an MMO even mean? Like,
right, because it's meant to be an ongoing experience.
Like,
I guess the end game is like some, I don't know.
Well, they've said they're going to do 10 more years. Like, they celebrated their 10 years and they have 10 more years to go. And I'm like, cool. I understand that from continuing the game, but as far as I know, I haven't seen any other MMO say, hey, we're going to finish our story and start a completely new story.
Right, because that's usually like the sequel, right? Like WoW.
Yeah.
I don't know, Burning Crusade or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but WoW is such a weird one. Like, if finally had someone just explain, like, more succinctly say, every WoW expansion felt like a whole new thing with some loose ties to what came before. No really strong, cohesive through-line story. It's just like, oh yeah, there's this new expansion that has some lore, but it's not really continuing the story that happened before, and that was the expansions for a long time. That's not Final Fantasy XIV.
Right, they're like very intricately linked, the story.
Yeah, it's like the story, that's the thing. There's a single solitary story through line, which they're ending and going to start something new. And I think I just got to the point where I'm like, where I'm only maybe a third through the expansion, where I'm like, oh, I think I know what patch 6.1 and where it's going to go. And it's insane if what they're alluding to at this point in the expansion comes to pass. The future of this game and its story, where it's going to go after this, its first major arc, is insane. Truly insane.
Wow. Okay.
Exciting, but like, oh shit, we're doing this. Okay. Yeah, that's the zone I'm in right now, and I'm just kind of wandering around, like, looking at everything, going like, oh my god.
And this is a new zone you've never been to before?
Nope, never been to it.
Wow, okay. Is there a named main character in this, or is it kind of like...
no, you're the Warrior of Light.
Got it, okay.
So everyone, I mean, that's what you will be referenced as, the Warrior of Light.
So it's
which
not
is
like
very...
or Noctis or whatever.
No, because you name your character.
Okay.
But everyone who's playing the game is playing the Warrior of Light. And the story is the Warrior of Light's story. Which is Warrior of Light, I think, is the protagonist of Final Fantasy I, I believe.
Oh, wow. So are you meant to be playing that character?
No, not necessarily. Again, that's just where they're pulling it.
Oh, it's just a
reference
touchstone.
from. Yeah. Yep, a touchstone from the game, going like, no. I mean, that's the thing. 14 starts in the very... where a very traditional Final Fantasy way. Like Final Fantasies 7 and 8 and other ones got away from this, but the first chunk of Final Fantasies really were focused on like the story of like there's always the Warrior of Light, and there's crystals were a huge part of it.
Right.
And fighting darkness and collecting crystals and combining and reforging crystals. And that's very ingrained into the DNA of Final Fantasy XIV. But so it tries to pull the touchstones of those original games, but then modernize it in some ways with the storytelling that's happened since like the first 6 games.
Right. Man, I'm so excited, obviously for you, but for everybody who's having just fucking, if they can get in, if they're not just queuing. The people who are listening who are just queuing are probably pissed, but like such a feels fucking magical. I'm having so much FOMO from this story. Man.
I know, and I think that's what a lot of people have. And even the coworkers I say, I'm like, I'm happy that you want to play and and you feel like you want to experience this, but I think there's a point where you also have to try to tell people, and like you too, like you can miss some FOMO, but if you don't have the time to give this,
I don't.
You're never going to get the payoff.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And it's unfortunate, but it's true. Especially getting through that like first 50 or 60 hours. Because I think a lot of people will hit that and be like, oh man, this is what this game. I'm like, yeah, it's an MMO. More like, especially at the beginning, it's like we're talking like this is still tab targeting, skill bar ability kind of rotation using. Like it's not revolutionary in its mechanics on how it plays. If you played WoW, you've played basically this with their slight changes in how like fast abilities come back online and stuff like that, where if you come from WoW, you'll play Final Fantasy XIV and be like, wow, this is slow. And I'm like, yeah, it's a slower paced game in its combat. So I think a lot of people will want to experience the story but may get disappointed when they're like, I have to play how much to get there?
Well, and that's what I'm kind of, you have sent your playlist, and I've kind of dabbled with starting to watch some of the Final Fantasy XIV story. Will that give me something of this?
It will give you something. I wonder how much you'll miss just because it won't have some dialogue here and there. Like it might, like the cinematics are the cinematics. Those are just like the opening trailers for each expansion, and they're not really meant to give story. They're just spectacle and look really cool. And I mean, Square does great cinematics, and they do those amazing. But I mean, you had the playlist that were just like, here's all the like, I think it was voiced cutscenes, because not all cutscenes are voiced. There's plenty that don't have voice, and so I think that's where you'll just miss some context about, you're like, well, I don't know what's going on now. Well, because to learn what was going on, you probably would have had to read a couple screens of just dialogue that wasn't voiced. Because my God, if they voiced absolutely everything, this game would be even the size on your hard drive would be insane, and then the cost. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, totally.
But you just know that it's a really good cutscene whenever you start hearing voices. You're like, oh, we're in it now.
Here we go.
Here we go.
They put the budget into this. It's got to be great.
Yeah. And it's not like they do. And that's the thing. Each expansion, they've done it more and more. So, and they've gotten away from the quests that are just like, oh, go and kill a number of things and bring them back. Like, there are just entire quest lines that are just go talk to people and have some dialogue and then end with a giant cinematic. That's it.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It's just like they got confident enough in their systems as time went on where they're like, I don't think we need to go ask people to kill things or collect things to get story.
Just to get the story. Yeah,
just give them the story. Let's make the story the quest. Cool?
That'd be nice.
Cool.
In The Witcher, right? Don't fuck the monster dens. Just give me the story. Let's get to the sex scenes. Let's go.
There you go. Speaking of which, that season's coming out soon.
Hell yeah, dude. I am fucking excited. I, watched the Nightmare of the Wolf, or what it was called, the animated one. which was goddamn great. And I'm just like, I need the new season. And then I don't know how, I didn't know this, but with the previous season, there were like behind the scenes shit. There's like a whole like mini season of like behind the scenes shit for The Witcher.
Yeah.
Season 1 that I never knew existed
or
saw. So now I can watch that to get ready for the next season. I can't fucking wait.
December 17th.
Yeah, baby. I'm ready.
So less than 2 weeks. That's great.
So good.
And maybe I'll be done with the story in this by then, hopefully.
By the 17th? Yes, yeah. You will. You're already 15 hours in.
Yeah. But yeah, so far, this has been everything that I've wanted it to be. The congestion is annoying, but I expect it.
I think that's a good thing. That's like, I mean, it sucks. I'm not playing, so I can say this, but like, it just shows how fucking ready people are for this, and it inspired one of the greatest "Am I the Asshole" threads on Reddit that I've ever seen.
So good.
Oh my god!
I love they had to lock it.
I know. I've never seen them. I guess I've seen some locked, but like, wow.
You people are saying this person's the asshole and also being mean about it.
Well, I was like looking at it. I was like, oh wow, like neglecting your family to isolate, play this game. I'm like, oh my god, like how many kids do they have? That sucks. To like, not. She's got to make sure they have got to make sure their kids are taken. Wait, there's no kids. It's a fucking cat. No, we're all good, man.
Yeah, that's right. She took 1 day off of work and was just gonna play this weekend. And then the last time she did this was about 2 years ago when Shadowbringers came out. Like, I'm putting the names. The guy in the thread didn't put any of the game names, but you're like, I know what game this is. What game launched at 4 a.m. Eastern time on Friday, and was delayed 2 weeks, so she moved her vacation. Oh, I know what you're talking. I know what game. And what was 2 years before that? Oh, Shadowbringers came out. I'm like, dude, fuck off. Like, let her play her thing. Get it. Just have her fun for a weekend. Do something yourself.
Yeah.
How hard is that? Like,
it's not hard at all. Fuck. If it was just me and my wife and a cat, I could think of 1,000 things to do.
Like, I even have 2 kids, and my wife was very much, she knew how excited I was for this coming out. And she's like, no. Like, we have some obligations and stuff, but she's telling me, she's like, just go play. Like, when you have a chance, just play. Like, I know you're excited for this. Enjoy. We'll be fine. And my kids are older. They'll be fine, too.
Oh, my God. It's so nice to have older kids.
Uh-huh.
So nice. Tell me more about having older kids.
It's great. It's
vaccinated kids.
Vaccinated kids who are older that honestly can do a lot of their own things and prefer to do a lot of their own things. So,
great.
Where you're like, let's do some family stuff. No.
Oh my God. I know one day my daughter's going to listen to these at some point. I love all of our time together, but it is like every second of every day. And eventually that would be nice to be less of the day, but still every day, There's
a balance that you're looking for, and it will be very sad once they, like, you see it as they get older. My kid, like my son is 11 now, right? He's 20. Yes. Making sure I'm thinking of the right year. We're not in 2022 yet. Nope. Is 11, but you can already start seeing him becoming more independent and wanting to be more independent, which is fine. Like, all support for that. But there's some sadness to that too, and I'm sure it will get more and more as time goes on.
Oh yeah, yep.
I'm happy as well.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I'm also happy about it as well. It's nice to see them grow and have that independence. And yes, for my own personal sake too, of being like, oh, I can have more balance in my life again.
Yeah. But as parents, that's what you want. But I know, as much as I'm like in it right now and looking forward to one day having some independence, like when my kid goes off to college or whatever and she's gone, I'm going to be a mess.
Yep.
So, careful what you wish for, folks.
Yeah. So that's cool. Like that thread was insane.
I love that. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is Final Fantasy XIV.
And I just loved, like, my wife's obsessed with game. I'm like, this is not obsessed. What you've just described here is not obsession. Like,
no, that'd be like she plays every day for 10 hours a day for the past 7 months, like, or whatever. Like, this is like launch day. Like, this is normal. Like,
and you're like, okay, she does long hours of work. She does a bunch of work. Like, she's not slacking on any responsibilities in her life or anything. Right. My God, she just wanted a simple, small thing for herself for a bit. Like, just let her have it. Go on.
This is going to happen in my household when The Winds of Winter finally comes out. I don't know when that will be, but that day I will not be working. I will be nothing. I will be reading all day. That's what I want to do when that book comes out.
Exactly.
Luck, that'll never happen, but that's ideal.
Yeah. I actually think Endwalker, like, I was friends that we had over telling them, like, I get excited for games coming out. That's not like I have games that I'm excited. But there's only a handful in my like lifetime where I felt as excited I was as Endwalker coming out. Like, it's a rare occurrence to be this like so ready to play this game.
Right.
And it's amazing, and I love feeling that way.
It's just so satisfying. Like it was back when 2015 or whatever when I found The Witcher and a couple other games around the time, Mass Effect, even Arkham Knight a little bit. But just like wanting to find that deeply engaging story with, obviously the mechanics are important too, but like just like fiending for that. So it's so nice when you like you haven't tripped into it. You've been there for a while, but like you just stumble into that new thing. And it's just like, it's so nice to be enveloped by like really good media.
Yeah. And I will say, again, playing through this, even though this is the end and there's dark stuff in it, it's still just not a cynical game. It's not a cynical story. Like, you truly are the warrior of light. Like, it's all about hope and pushing through all the harsh things that are going on to make a better world and stuff. And I'm like, God, it's so nice to have non-cynical storytelling. Fuck.
That is really, really nice.
Especially in time like this. But I've said it before, I do think that the unfortunate thing of Game of Thrones as a TV show, and as the books being so popular, is people really dived into the cynicism of it.
Well, you mean in terms of like creating new media or like
new media?
Enjoying...
New media out of it.
Exactly. Yeah, because they're like, well, this is wildly popular. This must be...
And it's dark, and it kills its main characters, and like...
Yeah.
It has really messed up antagonists that just do horrible things. And they're like, yeah, we can run with it. We can make a bunch of stories around like stuff like that. And I'm like, it definitely feels that there's a lot. That was, I would say Game of Thrones does it well in the books, that it's not constantly like that, but it gets, unfortunately, when other people look at it, they feel like they miss the point of a lot of it.
Oh my God, D&D missed every single fucking point there.
And then that, and then people are like, oh, we want to make stories that are like Game of Thrones and stuff. And I'm like, well, you're taking all the really like horrible crap of the books and the like depressing stuff and just running with that and not pulling out any of the hopeful messages as well. Like, you're just completely missing some layers going on there.
Well, and so much of the redemption, there were so many like redeeming storylines and plots or whatever that completely gone. Like fucking the burning of King's Landing. I can already tell that's going to happen in the book. It's not going to happen how it happened in the show, and it's going to feel fucking great. Not like it did in the show. It's not going to feel like that at all.
Yeah. So it's nice to be playing something that just wants to be hopeful and wants to honestly put hope into the world when you're playing it and experiencing it. Because there's a lot of stuff right now that just doesn't want to do that.
Have you started Wheel of Time on Amazon?
Yeah, I watched like the first 4 episodes. It was okay.
How was it? Yeah,
I found it kind of boring.
Sounds about right, considering the source material.
Yeah, kind of. I was like, all right, it's kind of interesting. It's a fantasy show. It's well put together. But I wasn't really feeling like I was connecting very deeply with much of the story and the characters. I was like, well, some of the characters are really kind of annoying, and I don't really want to watch them. So,
yeah, right. One of them is Rand al'Thor. That's hard. He's the main character.
But I should watch more of it. I'll probably finish the season just to to get an idea of what it was. But yeah, I mean, I never clicked and connected with the books, so I had a feeling I probably wouldn't really connect with the story here either. Like, unless it's drastically different, which I don't think it is. It's different. I know that they've moved stuff around, but I don't think they've upended like the lore and the way the world functions and everything. So
I'm hoping that something's in the works for Brandon Sanderson's The Stormlight Archive. Which if you're looking for like something that's like upbeat and like not cynical, but in that like epic fantasy vein, man, that's it. That's the story, man.
I've heard good things about it.
It's fucking great, dude. It's like triumphant and like positive, and not mired in like darkness and it's the opposite of Game of Thrones, you know? It's cool. It's really cool. So I'm very, very much a fan.
Oh, I was looking. The rights to at least the first book, Way of the Kings, have been optioned. But
recently or for a while ago?
Actually, that was in 2016. They reverted in 2020 to Sanderson.
Oh, damn. So no one did anything with it?
No, never got off the ground.
Yeah.
So.
Damn. That'd be so cool. I think that'd be good animated, to be honest. Netflix, pick it up. Fuck.
Come on, do something. Anything else you want to know about Final Fantasy XIV right now?
No, that covers it, man. Okay. Anything else I asked would be like story spoilery. So
yeah.
Cool.
Then I've been playing this, and the other thing I played in preparation before getting here, I did two things. I finished Metroid Dread.
Oh yeah, that's right. You rolled credits.
I rolled credits on Dread. We talked last time. I was having a hell of a time on the final boss, so I just went back through, got some more energy tanks. I didn't scour those, but I scoured for power bombs. Because I had 2 power bombs when I finished the next night, went back to the boss, I had 12 that I could use. And my God, the energy tanks didn't even matter at that point. Like, just having the power bombs to use at specific times in the fight, just finish that very fast. So get power bombs. I'll tell you that. You get power bombs very, very late, and you can just go right to the boss. No, just go collect a few more of those. Makes the final boss much easier.
Nice.
Overall, really good. I generally liked it. I don't want to spoil any story stuff, but I was very worried going into that final boss with the fate of Samus.
Oh no, yeah.
And I won't spoil either way how it goes. But there are some twists and turns, and I was like, "Oh, holy shit! This is a new take on the lore of this character and Metroids and how the games connect and why."
Sounds like there's some stakes.
There are stakes. There's some big stakes. We're like,
I'm not used to that.
Yeah, no, not really in a Metroid game so much.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Yeah, highly recommend. I think it's worth playing. I think there was still one too many Emmy overall encounter in the game.
Yep, I agree.
That's about it.
Yeah.
We've talked about a little hand-holdy at times once you know about it.
Yep.
Once you've unlocked everything, like was the last boss and I could just go explore everywhere, it felt really good just doing that. Like, using the map, like, blazing through different paths, and, like, the teleporters actually open up. Like, once you get a certain teleporter or enough of them, you can just teleport to any teleporter from any teleporter. Nice. So you can just jump around the map super fast, which felt great.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to continuing.
Game,
that's my before Christmas mission, is to beat that game.
Yeah, I think I still beat it in just under 10 hours. Even. Okay. Like, I spent another just over an hour hunting power bombs and energy tanks that I hadn't collected, that I knew where they were. So
right.
I guess if I was a better gamer, I could have beat it at 8.5. But when I just the boss straight up, but I'm not good enough.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, wow, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I think Tuesday, Wednesday, I actually played Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Oh, nice. You loaded that up.
I loaded it up, got through the first the intro part, I'm now like at the base and kind of understanding the context of the whole game. Yeah, it is very much a Persona game with Fire Emblem characters.
Yeah.
I want to play more of it. But Final Fantasy came out, of course, but so I'm not really worried. But I'm like, oh, it's cool. The battle system's cool. The comboing and like where you can set up pretty big chaining attacks from different characters based on like the element you use. So it has some strategy to the combat. But yeah, it seems like very lighthearted overall. Much lighter than a Persona game or like a Shin Megami Tensei.
Well, it's like a pop.
It is. It's idol culture type
right.
stuff, and it's very lighthearted idol culture stuff out of Japan. So it seems like it will be a fun game. It's not going to be like, I don't think, overly deep or anything. But it was fun. I put like 2 hours into it. But I mean, I have that to play. I got Bravely Default 2 physical because Amazon was selling it for $25.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah, so I picked that up and it came. And then you sent me Shin Megami Tensei 5 was on sale for, what, 36? 38?
Yeah, and it was like the Steel edition.
Steelbook, yeah. With tax, it was $40 for me. So
I sent that fully expecting you to say, I'm busy with Final Fantasy XIV.
$20 off a game that just came out. That seems pretty good.
It's pretty good.
And Atlas stuff doesn't tend to go on sale, really. Not
right,
in that
so there's no point
dramatic.
In waiting, I guess. Yeah.
Like 40 that's probably about as low as it will go overall. Because I'm even looking at like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, like it was 40. You're like talking, this game is a couple years old now and it's never dropped below 40.
No, not at all. Absolutely.
And so that they tend to keep them roughly that price. Like Persona, only now, like I think you can get Persona 5 Royal for like 25, and we're talking years later.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. I saw it on sale. I was like, oh damn.
Yeah.
During the Black Friday or not, it's not Black Friday. It's like best of the year or whatever, end of the year.
Yes. So, which is fine. So I'll have 3 giant JRPGs to dig into over like my winter break.
Yeah, that's great.
But that's what I've been doing.
Cool. For me, for games, man, it's just been, I introduced my daughter to, I don't know if I said this last time, it might have been this week, Lego Harry Potter.
Oh,
did I mention that?
No, you didn't.
So, yeah, we were playing Lego Worlds, and she just loves Lego. And I was like, I'm going to show her one of the other Lego games, and I have Marvel's Avengers, because she's like really into Spider-Man right now. Which is deeply unfortunate for me, but I'm glad she loves it. And Spider-Gwen is super cool. I fucking hate Spider-Man just because my brother likes him. That's really the only reason. So there you go. But I didn't. The violence in that game is not what I really want to be. Even though it's a Lego game, not really what I want to do with her. But I thought, what do I have that's like kind of in the like the fantasy vein, like like the staffs or bows or whatever, that kind of violence like is okay. The Link style, the sword or whatever. I was like, Harry Potter, they just use wands, so that's what we did. Loaded up Harry Potter, and she was really into the story. And I was like, what did I do here? Because I've wrestled with the idea of like reading Harry Potter with my daughter, and I'm just not a fan of J.K. Rowling anymore. Obviously,
neither am I. My kids love the Harry Potter stories, though. So we've just talked to them, being like, "Yeah, the author sucks, but it's not really." Her views aren't apparent in the writing of these books. So
no, they're certainly not. That's right.
So it's like you don't have to like this author, but like my daughter is listening to the Harry Potter audiobooks on repeat pretty much constantly.
Nice. That's cool.
She loves Hermione and like the magical world type stuff, and like I get it. Like I'm not gonna go run out and buy Harry Potter merch or anything because I don't want to support Rowling, but we have all the books. We get the audiobooks through the library. So we're like, yeah, enjoy the world. And we have talked to our kids about how we don't really agree with the author on her views. But
yeah, the library is a good idea because I don't have the books anymore. I gave them to my mom. So I'd have to buy them again, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah, library's great.
Yeah, so I'll do the library. But I guess you've kind of hit on the thing that's also the other issue for me, is that I wish the main character was Hermione. So we stumbled across Mistwick School of Musicraft, which I probably mentioned to you before. But it's this magical school where people are the kids are learning magic and to do magic and shit. But the magic implement is their instruments. And the main character is a female protagonist who's awesome. The writing is awesome. She listens to that book every fucking night, and she has since she's 3.5.
Nice.
And it's a book it's like a tween book, right? It's like a 10, 11, 12, whatever.
Sure.
But then the prequel just came out, so we're starting to listen to that now. And it's super cool. So that's kind of scratching that itch. But she definitely got into the story by playing the game. Which was cool. I mean, I really like those books, despite J.K. Rowling being a fucking tool.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we'll see where we go with that. But other than that, Breath of the Wild, we played again. We do on Saturdays, and she's just so excited to get to the highest place possible, look around, find a shrine, paraglide to the shrine, and do the shrine, which is kind of how you play that game. It's been a lot of fun, and she also spent a lot of time around Kakariko Village, and we just got to Hatno Village, and she is just tickled pink that Pura is this tiny little person, because in Age of Calamity she is not.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really cool. She's really enjoying it and helping solve the puzzles. And I got to that fucking shrine. I can't remember. I don't know if you remember it, but it's one of it's near Hatno. It's in Hatno,
I know which one you're talking about.
Holy fuck. You're like, moving the controller around to get the ball through the fucking maze. And I did it probably like 5 or 6 times. Couldn't really get it. And I accidentally flipped the controller backwards. I was like, that's what I did last time. I didn't use the maze. I flipped it upside down, so it's just the flat part. And then the ball hits in the middle, tilt it a little bit so it rolls down, and then flip it up so the ball flips into the air and lands on the fucking path.
Yep.
And I just didn't use the fucking maze. And I'm wondering, did they design it that way? Or do they mean for you to use the fucking maze?
I don't know. Honestly, who knows?
Because it's annoying.
At one point, they would have had to have known, someone who had tested it, been like, hey, look, you can do this, and you can flip it over and do this thing. And then, if anything, they probably were just like, cool, if you figure it out, like, thumbs up. Good job. You're smart. Like,
lateral thinking.
We'll keep that in there. I mean, I actually had a way, if you hold, I had found a thing where if you have the maze side up, but if you hold it at the right angle, like tilted towards you quite a ways, the ball will drop right into the final chute of the maze, and then you can just flick it out of that.
Awesome.
Like I knew the exact tilt that I could have it at, and just try after try doing it.
I was wondering if that was the case, because the way that it lands is like purportedly like right in the middle, so you can't do that. And I'm like, there's got to be a way that you can fucking.
There's totally a way you can do it.
Yeah, that fucking shrine, man.
I know everyone hates that shrine.
Yeah, I remember like once I started doing that maze for a second, I was like, it all just rushed back. The fucking hate, like, oh no.
Yep.
Keep my cool for my kid.
And then you figured out, oh right, there's a better way to do this.
Dude, she was so happy. She's like, wow, that's cool. You can flip this upside down and just fling it. Come on, daddy. And I tried like 5 times and finally got it. I was like, yeah, baby. And oh man, it's just such a bite-sized game, man. You can take it in just little chunks. That game is still fucking fantastic. So
yeah, not like the multi-day dungeons of Zeldas of yore.
Yeah, no. I'm less interested in those. Less interested. Let's just say that. Wind Waker's great, man, but those dungeons sometimes.
Yeah. And those aren't even the longest in the series. I'm trying to think of which ones. Skyward Sword had some really long dungeons. Yeah.
People like that, and that's great, but I like the more
no.
Okay, maybe they don't.
I'm cool. Well, they do, but I mean, you hear people talk. But I'm like, probably from a general populace standpoint of just general consumer, no. Like people want to be able to jump in and play for 15, 20 minutes and feel like they've made some form of progress.
That's why I'm so excited about Metroid Dread. Like, that is happening all the time. I drop in for 10 minutes. 10 minutes usually turns into 20 minutes or whatever, and then I can get back out and feel like I've advanced the map.
Yep.
So.
Completely true. And I think that is a thing you see a lot in modern gaming.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this because being a busy person with work and with music and with my family, it's nice to have bite-sized experiences. Sorry, I don't have time. When you tell me that you beat Metroid Dread in 10 hours, that makes me so excited.
Yeah, it was a good experience. I'm happy.
Yeah, baby. All right, this was episode 217, I believe. Prof and Dev Play Games. If you like us, please rate us on your podcast service of choice, and we will be back next week to talk more Final Fantasy XIV, I'm sure. And I will be advancing further into Metroid Dread. Looking very forward to that. All right. Thanks, folks. See you next week.
All right. Later, everyone.